So I feel like I kinda owe it to y'all to make a different sort of video about the Detroit Red Wings and trades. Because the last video on this YouTube channel went over the somewhat derogatory idea of the Detroit Red Wings trading away Captain D. Boss. And while I, in part, agree with the sentiment of that article, the idea that if the Wings stop making the playoffs and they still stink by 2 years from now, maybe a Larkin trade would actually be appropriate, I don't think now is the right time to go out there and make commentary like this. I think the team is doing really well, and, you know, why are you going out there talking about the Wings stinking for the next 2 years when they're literally in a playoff spot right now, the best position they've been in years? So, despite the fact that that is a conversation that I think we did need to have, I also wanted to make a video about this, because this was talked about on RedWingsInsider.com as well. I thought this was a really interesting idea. I wanted to dive into it here in a video by itself. So without further ado, this show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Go out there and check out the first link in the description to save some money on your VPN, get some free months, and support this YouTube channel all in the process. Let's head over onto an article published by Jack Sutherland yesterday on Red Wings Insider. It talks about a player that, in Sutherland's opinion, the Wings should acquire before the trade deadline. The trade deadline isn't far off, and the Wings could look to be buyers for the first time in a long time. Who could they consider potentially acquiring to strengthen the team for a postseason run? One player from a former rival is likely to be dealt as his current team continues a painful rebuilding process, and that's forward Ryan Donato of the Blackhawks. Now, I love this idea. I love this player. Ryan Donato has been such an underrated pickup for me throughout the fantasy season this year. You kind of just have to know when to drop him, that's the thing. He's been very inconsistent, but when he is on like he has been in his past 4 games. Ryan Donato is a 28-year-old 6 feet 190 left-handed center winger. He can play all 3 forward positions, and he is signed on till the end of this season, making $2 million a year. He was drafted in the 56th overall spot in the 2014 draft by the Boston Bruins, played in Harvard, was pretty good over there, made the Bruins the next season, wasn't really too amazing, and then found himself in a whole bunch of other organizations. He played in Boston, he played in Minnesota, he played in San Jose, he played in Seattle, he played in Chicago last year. But this season, the guy's got 37 points in 53 games played, good enough for a 56-point projection pace. He's on pace for 29 goals and 27 assists. Sure, while he isn't a top-tier superstar like Connor Bedard is on the Chicago Blackhawks, he still is riding the coattails of that offensive system, getting some points on the power play here and there. He's been very up and down with his point production throughout the season, but when he is on, as exemplified by his recent 4-game stretch, where in the month of February, the guy has himself 8 points in 4 games. Now, a lot of that was bolstered up by a 4-point night against the Predators, 2 goals and 2 assists, but he has been so good, even in his last 10 games, he has gotten 13 points. He's been a very, very good force as of late, and there have been rumors that the Chicago Blackhawks could consider trading Donato, because even though he is a guy that is very productive for this team, his contract is expiring, he's only making $2 million, he's 28 years old, it's not like he's particularly young, he's playing some of the best hockey of his career, and this could be the point where he could be seen around the NHL as a legitimate rental. Let's go back over onto the article here. BetMGM listed Donato as one of the top 10 players who could soon be traded, and that the Blackhawks would likely accept a 3rd-round draft pick in return for him. Donato has been traded twice already, so he is no stranger to the business, but the 28-year-old appears to finally be realizing his potential since he already surpassed his career high for points over his recent hot streak. Chicago already fetched a 3rd-round pick for 1 rental in Taylor Hall, and GM Kyle Davidson would almost certainly accept that or a better pick for Donato since he is a pending UFA. Ryan Donato has speed and skill and could play center or wing up and down a contending team's lineup, though he is likely best suited as a 3rd-line center or a number 2 or 3-line wing. This article is proposing the idea of Donato for a 3rd, and it even talks about here at the end the Red Wings could even offer up slumping forward Tarasenko in return, as they're rumored to be looking for a way to part ways with him as he is not fitting in after signing a 2-year deal on the summer. GM Steve Yzerman has been notoriously hesitant to part with draft picks, but if the cost to acquire Donato was only a third-rounder, he could be enticed to do so. Donato will be a free agent this year. His current AAV is a reasonable $2 million. And in the poll underneath, the question is, would you like to see the Red Wings acquire Donato from the Blackhawks? 58.5% of the votes say yes, which means that there is enough division here where I could say that it's a reasonably discussion-worthy topic to have. Is Ryan Donato a fit for the Detroit Red Wings? I think his versatility would help out this team. Sure, you can say that he isn't necessarily like a game changer in a Larkin or a Bedard sense, and you could also debate that the Red Wings have too many guys that aren't game changers. The Andrew Kupps of the world, the JT Compher's, the guys going out there and producing some points but not a lot of points. They're not great, but they're certainly fine to have, and maybe you could even say there's more to give here, because guess what? Ryan Donato does have more points than the Andrew Kupps and the Tarasenkos and the JT Compher's of the world. He's got more points than Patrick Kane. He's been technically more productive than that guy, so if the Wings were to acquire a guy like Donato, he would already be a top 5 player on the team in just raw hard points. Whether or not that's indicative of the quality of his play, I don't know. You can say that he's more valuable than a Kopp or a Compher, more offensively capable than some of the other guys in the middle 6 of the Wings. But I will say there is a little bit of concern on my part on Donato's streakiness, and that's just coming from the perspective of somebody who has had him so many times this season in fantasy. I've added and dropped Donato all year because he's been so inconsistent, but when he is on, and he is a very, very good player. So you could debate that with the Blackhawks' up and down season, I mean, even Connor Bedard went through a really, really bad stretch at the beginning of the year. If he were to be in a position where the team is more consistent, maybe Ryan Donato is a lot more productive, and maybe he's consistently a point-per-game guy, or a 2 points in every 3 games kind of guy, rather than this on-and-off thing that we've been seeing for most of the year. Obviously, you want him to continue producing 4-point games like he had against the Predators a few nights ago, but that's not realistic. What is realistic, though, is if he gets placed onto a first power play unit, he's playing with Larkin and Raymond, and maybe whomever else it is, like, I don't know, there are possibilities here with the Red Wings. If he's playing with more talented players than just Connor Bedard and Teravainen and Seth Jones, maybe there is a potential for Donato to actually explode offensively. And trading him away for Tarasenko in a third, I actually like that idea. You know, you replace the forward spot in the lineup pretty evenly in Detroit, and with Stevie Y being so hesitant to trade away draft picks in the past, it's starting to make a little bit more sense now if he were to explore those kinds of thoughts at this point of his tenure as GM with the Red Wings, because the Red Wings right now are the best they've been in a very long time, and they're trying to make the playoffs here. They're trying to actually be competitive for the first time in a decade, pretty much. So with the team being in this spot, is now the time to go out there and start trading away draft picks? I mean, the Wings have a lot of good prospects already. They're one of the best prospect pools in the NHL. And Ryan Donato is not an absurdly old rental dinosaur kind of guy. He's 28. So if you wanted to re-sign this guy, then maybe there's a possibility you do that, because when you think about it, you already have an extra year on Tarasenko's contract. So if you trade away Tarasenko plus a third for Donato, you can use whatever contract savings you got for Tarasenko's next year being freed up to bring Donato back for next year if he's a good fit, and all of a sudden things are looking pretty good. I don't know, that's just me spitting. I'll leave a link in the description to the article if you want to go out there and read more about that yourself. Ryan Donato's a pretty good player in my opinion. I do think he would be an improvement over what Tarasenko has brought so far with Detroit. Not to say that Tarasenko is totally washed, it just hasn't been a fit. If Tarasenko goes over to Chicago and he's playing with Connor Bedard too, maybe he starts putting the puck in the back of the net more. Who really knows? It's just whether or not Tarasenko and his trade protection on his contract, because there is trade protection, it's not easy to go out there and say, okay, yeah, like, just send him to Chicago, send him to the last place team in the NHL. That would be a very difficult task, I would say. If he does get traded, it's probably to a team that's really, really good. We had seen the Florida Panthers be linked to Tarasenko one more time if he gets sent over to the team that he won a Stanley Cup with, or one of the teams that he had won a Stanley Cup with. He's got 2 under his belt, so Tarasenko, of course, is a very good playoff experience name. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, though. If you could get this trade done, Tarasenko in a third for Donato, do you do it? Let me know in the comment section what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.